At least one friendly biographer claims that Nathan's first act was to deliver the news to the Prime Minister, but that government officials were hesitant at first to believe it, because it ran contrary to reports they had received previously telling of serious British setbacks. At any rate, there is no doubt that Nathan's second act of the morning was to set off for the stock exchange to take up a position at his usual pillar. All eyes were upon him as he slumped dejectedly, staring at the floor. Then he raised his gaze and with pained expression began to sell. The whisper went through the crowded room. Nathan is selling? Nathan is selling. Wellington must have lost. Our government bonds will never be repaid. Sell them now. Sell, sell. Prices tumbled and Nathan sold again. Prices plummeted and still Nathan sold. Finally, prices collapsed altogether. And in one quick move, Nathan reversed his call and purchased the entire market in government bonds. In a matter of just a few hours, he had acquired the dominant holding of England's entire debt at but a tiny fraction of its worth. Nathan Rothschild, ladies and gentlemen, who was at the time the richest man on earth. Now, upper-class billionaires, the realm of conspiracies and speculation, power and secrecy, a realm where the law does not apply. Wait, there are classes of billionaires? Of course. While the nouveau riche fight over their placing on the Forbes list, the ruling class stay in the shadows, pulling the strings and pushing their agenda. First of all, I want to discuss the phrase conspiracy theory. The term was weaponized by the CIA in 1967 to discredit those who questioned the official JFK report, as the following dispatch shows. It's interesting to note that the document is labeled Psych for psychological operations or disinformation. It's also marked CS copy at the bottom, meaning clandestine services unit. Since then, the phrase has worked extremely well to stifle rational and objective discussion. In many senses, conspiracy theories are essentially a form of entertainment and procrastination. For example, look at the impact of figures such as Eddie Bravo and Alex Jones. The impact of these figures on the success of Joe Rogan's podcast and its associated value is far from trivial. However, there are elements of truth in the madness. In this type of discussion, it is important to emphasize the following point. It is tempting to look at this from the perspective of good versus evil.
However, this is just not practical.
It is far more productive if you are trying to get to a point of rational truth, or at least close to it, to view it from the perspective of powerful versus less powerful. This will produce a more objective view of the state of the world, rather than a subjective sense of who is on the moral high ground.
A sense driven by propaganda on both sides.
The uncomfortable truth is that a psychopathic nature is often a prerequisite for obtaining and maintaining power. Empathy has no utility in this realm. You must possess cold objectivity, an immunity to patriotism, and an indifference to the human condition. There are various laws of power. Here are just a few. Crush your enemy, totally.
So, that is the land of unconfirmed.
Yes, we came, we saw, he died.
Introduce change, gradually.
The digital currency. We have set up a task force, and we will accelerate the effort of this task force, drawing on the resources of the entire Euro system, meaning the national central banks that already participate in that research, that have already committed to the project in terms of experimentation, pilots here and there.
Create compelling spectacles.
Breaking down at one point because of the emotional toll that this was taking. On a personal note, I remember coming back from New York, driving across the Roosevelt Bridge, hearing Martin Sexton's version of America the Beautiful, and I broke down crying. Did you ever have a moment like that?
Not really.
Let your victims feel smarter. And keep your hands clean. Many people speak of secret societies. They bring up the Illuminati and various figures from popular culture. Lots of speculation, few facts. Here is a fact though. Both presidential nominees in 2004, John Kerry and George W. Bush, were members of Yale's Skull and Bones secret society. George's father, George H.W. Bush, was also a member of Skull and Bones. He was a former president, obviously, but more importantly, he was a high-ranking member of the CIA. Oh, and his father, Prescott Bush, was also a member.
Secrecy. The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
After a deluded gunman assassinated President Kennedy.
Other members include Steve Schwarzman, co-founder and CEO of Blackstone, the most revered private equity firm in the world, who has a net worth of $18.8 billion. Oh, and William Donaldson, who was the co-founder of investment firm DLJ, where Schwarzman got his start no less, and he was also the former chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission, aka the SEC, under George W. Bush no less. For some context, the Skull and Bones crest is the same as that flown on a pirate ship flag, with the date 322 emblazoned beneath it, thought to refer to 322 BC, when the Greek orator Demosthenes died, a moment that saw ancient Athens begin its transition from democracy to plutocracy, implying the group's belief that America should follow suit
and surrender the responsibilities of government exclusively to the wealthy.
They've certainly executed well in that respect. There is only one division that matters in this world. Every other division often cited, be it race, religion, whatever, is all a divide and conquer strategy of distraction. There is only the top 0.00001% and the rest. They control the important assets, and crucially, they control the flow of money.
There's about 150 people that run the world. Anybody who wants to go into politics, they're all fucking puppets, okay? There are 150, and they're all men, that run the world, period, full stop. They control most of the important assets. They control the money flows.
I close with the following. Who is the most powerful entity in Game of Thrones? Was it Daenerys with her fire-breathing dragons? Was it the Night King with his otherworldly powers? Or was it the rarely mentioned bank that will always have its due?
For more compounded valuable content, subscribe and like.
Hey man, nobody watches you. We know nobody watches you. You need the ratings.
Saudi Arabians aren't funny enough, you little jihad.
Hey, first of all, let me explain something, all right? Okay, this is bullshit.
Okay, hold on. We're against Saudi Arabia, you dumbass! We talk about that all the time! Oh, really? We talk about that all the time! You don't know shit! What do you think, the lizard people are in charge? No. Is that what you think? Hey, your pants Bilderbergs!